Why hello there! My name is Matt, and I do a lot of things, but more specifically on these episodes, I talk about the coolest Error Pokemon cards that I have seen sold within this last week. And actually, before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to my cute little niece, Florence. I found out she is watching these episodes, so hi Florence, it's great to see you. Now, kicking things off, we have a base set Clefairy. This got graded to CGC 6, and this is called the Press Doubling Error. Doubling? I feel like I just need to be British there. So what happened here is it looks like really just all of the black text was double printed, and it gives it a look as if there was a shadow cast down on it. So it's like this is an effect you can do in Photoshop, and very unique. You don't see these too often. You really don't. You see it not impacted at all on the art box itself or really any of the energy. It's just everything that's black. So you have the line here too, and yeah, very unique. And this sold for $157.50 in auction. Average non-error price goes for around $32 for a grade 6. So around $120 of value added to this card. Next up we have a Sharpedo from Obsidian Flames, and I have not clicked into it yet because something very weird happened, and this happened several times this week. Essentially what happened is I think the same person consigned with Z&G Emporium and submitted 2 error cards to sell, and when they submitted them to CGC, you see they're sequential, so it's 4016 and 4017. So this is a repeating error, and for some reason I decided to talk about this one, so let's get into it. So this is known as a printer hickey or additional ink. Now I think when it gets this large they call it additional ink. Whatever you want to call it, essentially a piece of debris or something got in the way of the printing process and essentially left a mark on the card and didn't let the rest of the card get printed. So you can see this looks like, I don't know what that would be, water? It looks water-ish, you know, with it's clear right here, and then that looks like the state of Wisconsin. But yeah, very large ink error, and I am shocked it sold for this little. $30 for a CGC 9. Now the grade doesn't matter as much for the price, in my opinion. I think I liken this to the error for the Magikarp from Scarlet and Violet 151. And that one is a repeating error like this, but it sells for so much more, like $60 to $100 raw. And I don't know why this isn't getting the same love. I think maybe because the Magikarp one covers up Magikarp's name, and this one is just kind of in the center. It's very odd for why it doesn't sell for more. But despite all that, I think whoever got this got an absolute steal for $30, this really cool repeating printer hickey. And we can actually see who the winner was. So we can just, see this. Okay, so 2 different bidders actually won this. That'd be interesting if it was the same person. It's not, but yes, extraordinary error, and one that I think was an absolute steal. Now, believe it or not, it happened again, but with the iCarp error. You can see sequential we have 4014 and 4013. The same iCarp error, so this person must have pulled it out of the same box, which is really cool to think. One sold for $49, one sold for $44. We'll go for the $49 one. Had 18 bids, sold for $49, and you can see that large repeating printer hickey there. Again, they call it additional ink because it is large enough. But yeah, there's not much more to say about it. Again, grade 9, you kind of expect that with modern cards. If you know it's valuable, you put it in a sleeve and you get it graded. So there's not really much room for it to get damaged. I know some things can happen sometimes, but overall, again, really crazy that someone got this for this cheap. I really do think that is a really, really good deal to get it for. And usually this card raw just absolutely kills it with the EVI and is in the top 10, if not number 1, but not this week. This is a deal hunter week. Next up, we have a cool repeating error. This is a base set 2 Poliwrath, and this is the blue dot error. Right here, there is a tiny blue dot on the inner portion of the swirl, the inner portion of the outer portion, if that makes sense. It doesn't. And yeah, this, I was kind of surprised it sold for this much. Again, the card's in pretty good shape, actually, but I didn't think this really added too much value. I think I picked one up for like $6 or $7. Granted, the card wasn't in the best shape, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, a cool repeating error and an EVI of 350%. Next up, we have a Voltorb from Topps. This is the Topps Chrome card, and this is a texture shift. Now, I don't want to say it's my claim to fame, but I had one episode where I called out Short Pocket Monster, who actually pulled a bunch of texture shifts when he didn't know it. And what I did was essentially to price the cards, I looked at other texture shifts to see what the EVI was, and I used that to calculate what I thought his price of his cards were. And there's only one that popped up in the last 3 months of sales when I did that recap, and so it kind of shows how rare these are. Now, I will show pictures on the screen here. I wonder if the ones that he had were shifted the same way this was, because there's a chance these could be printed at the same time then. Again, they are that rare where you really don't see them pop up too often for sale. This was listed for $60, but had a best accepted offer price of $54. So nothing cracking the top 10 yet for the EVI. Let's get a good look at that texture shift too. Now this is cool because you can see the texture right here. The texture is on Voltorb itself here. This doesn't look like it's textured, but I believe it is. Just a wonderful error and really fun to see. Now here we have a base set Charizard, and this is the incomplete hollow error, or mirror hollow, incomplete hollow pattern, call it what you want. There's no stars right here. And the way this photo was taken actually looks like it's a little bit darker. I don't believe that's the case if you see it in person. And Charizard sells for a lot, and Mirror Hollows sell for a lot. So you combine those two and you get a $1,400 base set Charizard. Ooh! Grade a CGC 8.5. Now, what I always say is if you're going to buy a card with the idea that it's a Mirror Hollow, you want to really make sure there's video or several photos of different angles to really see, because some photos can be really deceiving. But if you have CGC confirming it is in fact a mirror hollow, then you should be fine, and you can go ahead and spend your $1,400 for this card. EVI, never crazy for a Charizard, but the value is always crazy for these Charizard errors. $600 of value added to this Pokemon card. We're in a drought here, no top 10s yet. Until now. Here we have a Pikachu promo card. Now apparently this is a Costco exclusive. When they have those Costco drops that everyone goes crazy for, sometimes you may get a square cut error. Now this is very cool. 1, can't see it there, 3, and 4. 4 square corner error. Sold in auction for $182.50. Now it looked like we had a smidgen of an alignment dot. That's not an alignment dot, I believe. That's too close to the card. But on the front, I saw it. Right there. It should be black, or should it be white? It should be black, I believe. Average non-error price for this. Okay, it was kind of hard to find because there's no Costco exclusive, and so I just kind of took a shot in the dark. I think for other cards I saw sell for raw and kind of what a grade 8 would go for, because grade 8's not that high for a modern card in my opinion. So I put $14, so this is kind of using my vast expanse of knowledge in this niche area. But with all those calculations, we came up with a 1,204% error value increase, which is good enough for number 7 this week. That's right. Next up, we have an error I've never seen before. Now, I believe, obviously this is a repeating error. I'm not sure if it was ever corrected. I couldn't find one that was, but it might be out there. But this is a Crystal Nidoking from Aquapolis. Oh, gorgeous cards. Love to see these, and this got graded a Beckett 8.5, so very high. And what the error is, you see Leaf, Lightning, and Fire, but that Fire should actually be Fighting. So again, I don't believe this was ever actually corrected. And so with this, you know, the EVI might not be crazy, but why I show this is just to bring attention to it, because, you know, it's cool to see new errors, and if you've heard of it before, great, but if you haven't, you'll learn something new. This was listed for $750 and had the best accepted offer price of $575. Next up, we have a cool one. Here we have a Pikachu V promo card. So this is from the Pikachu V box, and why is this look normal, and why do you show in the back of a card? Well, Inverted back error. Now, this could be called a inverted front error because when these Pokemon cards are printed, the back is actually printed first. So that would be normal or considered normal, and then the front would be put up upside down. But clearly this got misaligned too. So this is an inverted and misaligned back error. Now you think you'd want to go with CGC because they would give you the error label on it, but I'm not sure. I've seen so many cards, even if it's an error and it's not labeled by PSA, that will still sell for way more than a CGC card, just because I think PSA kind of has that prestige right now. So they got the grade 9 Miscut, which is essentially a 10 in PSA's eyes. And another fun fact about these inverted backs is they are prevalent in every single Pokemon set ever. That error has always happened where you got your average Joe who is slinging sheets together to put them together to make the Pokemon cards, and they put it upside down, it gets inverted, then you get cool errors like this. Now this sucker sold for a lot. Listed for $1,000, had the best accepted offer price of $800. Now average non-error price, I always like to laugh at this, $16.73 for a grade 9. Now that gives us an error value increase of 4,682%, which is good enough for number 2 this week. Number 2. I will say, spoiler, there are several Pikachus and several of one other card in the top 10. That's all you're getting. Keep watching, please. Like and subscribe too. Thank you. Thank you. This will be my one time complaining about it too. But eBay has this thing now where when you click into it, it doesn't show it. So I have to test before every single time. And that's why if you see I'm just zooming in here, that's why, because I can't actually click in it because it'll make it smaller. My gripes aside, here we have a first edition Houndoom, and this is a double hollow variant. Got graded a PSA 7. We got that first edition double hollow error label from PSA, so this is definitely the right choice to get it graded with them. They will recognize this. And with each double hollow variant, there is a different way to tell for each card. In Houndoom, it's easy. There is a lot more hollow right here. You'll see hollow on Houndoom itself, and the tail and the outline of Houndoom, there's usually a white border around it, and that will be missing. So standard edition double hollow variants usually go for 80 to 200% for the EVI. But first editions are notably much rarer, and so the EVI is a lot higher. And the price is just higher too because they're first editions. So this sold for $1,300. Average non-error price $210 for a PSA 7. And that gives us an EVI of 517%, which is not in the top 10. Why would 500 be in the top 10? What are you talking about? Well, hi there, this is Matt from the future, just as view hungry as always, here to shine a little bit of light on this really cool card that you probably saw in the thumbnail. So this is a base set 2 Hitmonchan that is severely miscut. Now I saw this in the Pokemon Misprints subreddit, talked to the owner of the card. They gave me a little bit of a backstory, but the original question they asked is this worth grading? And it kind of sparked a lively debate whether this is an NFC card or not, but some of the information that they provided me leads me to think that it's most likely not. Can't say 100% for sure, but let's get into it. So the backstory behind this, these cards sitting in this box right here have been sitting at their parents' house for like 20 years, and they recently got the cards back, pulled it out, deciding if they want to get any of them graded or not, and they saw this absolutely banger of a card. They told me that they hadn't collected since these cards had came out, so 20 plus years ago. I'm not sure how prevalent NFC sales were 20 years ago, if they were prevalent at all, but they assured me that every single card that they pulled was from a pack. They never really traded or got any other cards. Looking at the card here, you can see it's a true miscut, meaning it's just as miscut on the front as it is on the back. If this is truly a factory error, then what would the price tag be on this? I'm guessing a couple of thousand. You really do not see a miscut card like this from Wizards of the Coast. So rare. I don't know, you be the judge of it. My vote is this is not NFC, but I just wanted to shed some light on this really cool card and share a little bit of the backstory behind it. It's so cool. They mentioned also that they would get like Pokemon packs when they go to birthday parties and everything. It's just like they're handing them out left and right, and now some of those packs are worth several $100s. So take this card, put it in a thumbnail, and let's get some more views. Thank you. Now here we have another square cut error. This is a Squirtle, and it has 4 square corners again. I don't believe there are any natural 4 square corner errors in Wizards of the Coast era, so way back in the day. You might see like 1 square corner, but when I say natural, I mean like happened in the factory. There's a lot of times where people get a uncut sheet and then they cut it into squares and then they sell it. And you can still get those cards graded, but they're not as, well, they're still very rare to find, but they're not as rare as these. Hey, we can click into this one. So this square cut error was listed for $100 and sold for $55. But let me tell you, the average non-error price, $1.33. So we have a 4,035% error value increase. That's good enough for number 3 this week. Next up, we have a vintage miscut. Bless up. I love vintage miscuts. You see we got a thick border here on this Hitmonchan from base set. And, ooh, you see the sparkle there a little bit. Look at that. Look at the dance. And the backside is also just as messed up as the front. So this is a miscut and not misalignment when both sides are like that. And we are lacking alignment dots. So I would say if this were to happen on a modern card, we'd call it off-center. But because these are so much rarer, alignment dot, never mind. But I'll say just because this is like this, if you don't see an alignment dot, I would still call it a miscut just because it's so much rarer for vintage cards. And this was listed for $100, sold for $100, and had an EVI of 901%, which is actually good enough for number 10 this week. A wonderful thing this is. Next up, we have a base set Charizard once again, but this is the black dot error. Now, this says black dot error plus hollow foil bleed. Actually, every single black dot Charizard has a hollow bleed. It also has a hollow shift. So we'll see the black dot right here, the second N and the E in Nintendo. We have a hollow shift where you can see the hollow foil is actually shifted up a little bit. And if we look at this video, you'll see the hollow bleed. So this is consistent with all of the black dot Charizards. I don't know if the hollow bleed severity ranges or not, but it makes this one of the really, really unique repeating errors. Especially because people love hollow bleeds, people love Charizards, people love repeating errors, people love black dots. I think people like black dots. On Charizards they do. And so that's why this sold for $950. Now, average non-error price for a Charizard is $236. Now, that gives us an EVI of 302%. That doesn't seem like a lot, but if you ever get a Charizard going above 200% for an EVI, that's something to be celebrated, and also just a cool $700 of value added to this card. It's in pretty good shape. I don't know if that whitening is really consistent or if it's just kind of looking like that in the photo, but yeah, this is, I think, it seems high for a black dot Charizard, but also it is a very rare card, and I think if you advertise it well, saying this is a hollow bleed, and some people don't know, then you could get to sell for more. Next up, we have a Snorlax non-hollow card from Jungle Set, and this is the highlighter error. Now you freaking mark my words, I will find one of these out in the wild. You see a lot of the non-hollow Snorlaxes sell, and every time I'm looking real close, and I'm going to find one day, I'm going to come on this show and say, guys, I found it. I'm not going to give any other context besides that, and you'll know I found it. Right here, there is a cool highlighter streak. It's like in the cool old animes you used to watch when it's like someone's about to duel and the camera pans over them and the sun shines across the camera over their face. That's what Snorlax is doing here, but he's just kind of chilling back and waving. Now these sell for quite a bit too. Average non-error price is around $7. This sold for $60, which is pretty solid for a non-hollow vintage Pokemon card. You know, pretty darn solid. That sells for more than a lot of base set hollows. And condition of the card's good too, so this might be one of the higher prices you actually see for it. You know, just a couple nicks here and there, but yeah, a neat card. And one that I will get. Mark my words. Next up, we have a Mewtwo GX from Shining Legends, and this is a twisted miscut. That's what CGC calls it, and I will agree with them. We can call it wonky too, or skewed, but you can see the card looks normal, the outside, and then just twist it this way, whatever way that would be for you. And these are always really cool. I think it's just a cool, unique take on a miscut. And sometimes it'll be so twisted, actually, that the shape of the Pokemon card will actually be larger than the case. And I think some grading companies actually can accommodate that plus size card, but some can't. But this doesn't seem to be plus size, it's normal sized. Let me confuse you for a second. So this was listed for 900 Australian dollars, which was $568.89. But the sale price wasn't $567.45. It was a best accepted offer price of 900 Australian, which is 567.45 US dollars. You still with me? If not, don't worry about it. Now let's look at the card again. Now again, my ignorance is showing, and I'm not afraid to show it. It's fun when I first do the research for the week. I go and I look at sold listings, and I basically just copy the link and paste it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I think in my head, which one is going to be number one? And I have a really hard time telling modern cards whether they're expensive or not. So it's like, holy cow, this modern Pokemon card sold for $560. Now, I don't know if this card regularly goes for, you know, maybe $10 for a grade 8, or if it goes for $325, which it actually does. So all this to say, my hopes got high that this was going to be a really cool high EVI. It wasn't, but still a really cool, unique card, and obviously it's cool to see this error happen on a valuable card because it just makes it even more valuable. You see it added $240 of value to this card. But yes, I'm never afraid to show my ignorance. That's one of my traits I am very proud of, oddly enough. I don't know if I should be proud of that. Alright, we're going to dive into the numbers for this one, but this is a base set Diglett with the fight symbol error. Come on, eBay. Woo! Rotated symbol right here. So it's rotated 90 degrees to the left. Repeating error that really isn't thought to be that expensive. I see price charting says it's around $19 raw. I don't agree with that. I think I've seen them selling for like $6 to $10 maybe, so they're really not that valuable. But the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's a PSA 10 and it sold for $500. Now, we actually are fortunate enough to be able to track pricing for this, and even though price charting values the raw card for high for this error, it says PSA 10 goes for around $200. Well, I think, you know, this goes for $6 raw, but this PSA 10 sold for $500. That's more than a the first edition D error Butterfree. That's more than several other repeating errors I can think of. Like, this is an unheard of sale to have a Diglett sell for $500. It's a Again, it's a cool error, but you can definitely get them for cheaper, I think. Maybe, I guess I haven't looked up the pop report for how many PSA 10s there are of this. The higher you go for a grade, typically the lower the EVI is going to go, just because you have a high price with a high price. Even if it's a non-error card, it's a PSA 10, it's not going to be that crazy of a EVI. But this has a 650% PSA 10 EVI. That's crazy. I don't know many that would get that high, honestly. Like, that is incredible. Especially for a repeating error, again, one that I don't think that's valuable. So enough talking about this card. I still don't have one, funny enough, but I kind of have a rule where I only like to pick up an error card if the seller doesn't know it's an error card, or if I can get a crazy good deal. So I think most people know about this error, so it's not really listed that often as a non-error, but I'll find one. But I mean, I'm in no rush to get one. Okay, if you have a thing against Shadowless Ninetales for some reason, that'd be a very odd thing to be against, but I suggest you click away now, because we're going to see quite a few of them. So here we have a Shadowless Ninetales, got graded a CGC 4, eBay, and this is the no damage error. So you can see the 80 here is actually missing. This is a very cool repeating error that sells for a multitude, a lot. So this CGC 4 sold for $450. Average non-error price for this, $21.86. So that gives us a 1959% EVI. That's actually good enough for number 4 this week. And I do encourage you to look at the pricing here. Again, this will show up again, but yeah, it's fun to see error versus non-error pricing throughout the grades. I think that is one of the cooler things I add with this show, is just to really deep dive into the pricing. Hey, look! Shadowless Ninetales, no damage error. This card really got beat up a little bit. You see that? It's not in good shape. And it sold for $325 raw. This beat up card, what would this get? PSA 3 maybe? I doubt they get PSA 4. This looks like it's in worse shape than the other one, or grade 4 I should say. Average non-error price for a raw Shadowless Ninetales is $26.64. So an EVI of 1120% is good enough for number 9 this week. I would like to say I show these cards in the order that I discovered them. PSA 7 Shadowless Ninetales with the no damage error. At this point I think you know what the error is. Sold for $850, listed for $1,200, best accepted offer price $850. Average error price for this is $760. So this went for a little bit higher actually, which is cool to see. Price is going up. EVI of 1161%, good enough for number 8 this week. Next up, we have a base set War Turtle with the Evolution Box error, a grade 9. Now, I cannot remember if there's been a grade 10 or not, but we'll be happy with a grade 9. So right here, this should be a little old Squirtle, but it's a little old War Turtle there. And it sells for a lot. Listed for $550, sold for $550. Average error price for a grade 9 is $400. But average non-error price for a grade 9 is $42.16. So that's an incredible EVI that we have here of 1,205%. That is very high for a grade 9, but also it's number 6 this week. Just edged out the Pikachu there, you can see. You thought we were done? Oh no. Shadowless Ninetales, no damage error. eBay, thank you. Cards, PSA 7. Whoa, what's this? I don't want to see that. This sold for a lot more than the other one. The other one sold for what, $780? This one sold for $1,350. Not sure why this one sold for so much more. Is it just the presentation? Is it just because I don't know, but I feel like if you're going to spend that much money on a Pokemon card, you'd want to do a little bit of research and see if there's another one out there or not. Again, maybe the card, they thought this is a lot higher quality PSA 7 than the other one. Hard to say, but congrats to the baller who spent over $1,000 on a Pokemon card that can do that. EVI of 1,902% is good enough for number 5 this week. So I think we're done with Ninetales now. I would not lie to you. I might, because I think it's funny, but no, I think there is no more. Next up, we have a first edition base set Pikachu with the Ghost Stamp error. One of my favorite errors out there. I was fortunate enough to find one for about 15 bucks. It's not in the best shape, but it was still probably the coolest error card I have come across for so cheap. This got graded a CGC 8. Sold for $550. Now, unless something crazy happens, you're never going to see a Ghost Stamp Pikachu in the top 10. It's unfortunate. It's just when you have the non-error card is a first edition Pikachu, those numbers don't add up. So this is sold for a lot though, but not as much as it could have. Sold for a lot because it's $550, but not as much as it could have because average error price is around $700 for a grade 8 Pokemon card. An incredible card though, I love it. Around $400 of value added. Now this one was a little crazy to see. This is a Japanese Charizard V-Star. Got graded a CGC Pristine 10. A perfect card. CGC is so excited. I don't know if they get excited or not for good cards like this. And then you put it upside down. I don't know how you do that, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with this card. It was just how it was applied to the actual CGC case. And I thought it'd be fun to have the non-error card actually be in a case as well and show you how it's supposed to sit in there. Now, this is very unique though, I have to say, and the seller did it right too. They used a technique called price anchoring, where they set it for $1,000, so it's kind of a high perceived value, and then when someone offers significantly less money, $800 less, it's like $200, I just got this for 80% off, that's incredible. Well, you still paid $200 for a card. Not to say it wasn't worth it, because you really don't see this too often, but Average down-arrow price for this is around $28. So take this as you will. If the part of your brain allows you to like error cards, there's nothing stopping you from liking error slabs. For pristine 10, you think they'd like give that to the big boss and then they would do it? Maybe the big boss is incompetent. I don't know. But $200. Now, I referenced this sale last week. It was not done yet. But here we have a CGC 10 base set Charizard with the incomplete hollow error. So this is the same as the other one, essentially. I just got a higher grade. A CGC 10 mirror hollow. Sold with Z&G Emporium and sold for $4,605. Now, my personal guess was $9,250, I believe. So this sold for about half of what I thought it would, but I just thought, you know what? There is the wild, wild west of grade 10s. Who knows what it's going to sell for? Now, I believe if this was a PSA 10 card with the incomplete hollow pattern, I forget if PSA recognizes that or not, I think it would have sold for $9,000 because a standard PSA 10 base set Charizard sells for around $9,800. Average non-error price for a standard CGC 10 base set Charizard is around $3,300. So I don't know, is it, again, it's cool that CGC recognizes the error, but is it worth it? Or would even a grade 9, like a PSA 9 Charizard go for more? No, it wouldn't. It might be worth a shot first to send it in and just see if they could get it or not. And actually, there's a card I'm going to be purchasing soon that is a CGC 10. It's an error. It's not recognized, and the seller doesn't know it's an error. I'm hoping to ship it to PSA and see if they can convert it to PSA 10. I know their standards are stricter, but I want to see if it could work because I really do think it could really skyrocket the value of this card. And I know for a fact that they recognize the error too. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. Working with the person, I think they're in like Bosnia or something. So we're working out shipping right now, but that should be a fun one. Either way, $4,600 for a Pokemon card. That is really, really special. So with the final card this week, we have some of the same tomfoolery that I saw with some of the other cards, where these cards look the same and they sell for similar amounts. Now, the other ones sold for less than they should have. I checked the quality of both of these Pikachus, and they definitely seem to be low too. But one thought in my head right before I started filming was, this sold on March 4th. This sold on March 10th. Did this person sell? And then the other person got the card hoping they could flip it for more and then couldn't, and then they just sold it for the same amount they purchased it. But with this one, there's an unfortunate pen mark on it. But if we go back, and here's the card we're actually talking about this week. Inverted stamp Warner Brothers promo Pikachu, but it does not have that pen mark. So that is not the same card. So my theory is busted, but now let's talk about this card. These are incredibly rare. Now, a little bit of the lore behind this card. So it is thought that there was only one uncut sheet where the stamp was inverted, meaning there's 30 of each of the cards. And so this card is one of 30. And so 2 of 30 if we count the other one too. Very rare. And even though this card really is not in the best condition, which is really unfortunate, it sold for $500 and is #1 this week. So it just really shows how rare it is, how special, just to know that clearly, obviously, they're never making any of these cards ever again. And to have just, to know the finite amount that I am one of 30 people to have this specific card is very special. Average non-error price for this Pikachu is around $8. So with an EVI of 5,939%, this is #1 this week. Now also, we got a cute dog. 0 reviews, but you sell a banger for $500. So congrats to the seller. Congrats to the buyer, and yes, congrats to me for completing another episode. I should have just stopped at that. That was a pretty good way to end it. But yes, thank you for watching. I am now posting Reddit content. So I have another series where I go through and I look at some of the Reddit TCG posts, and I think it's pretty fun. And I think it's kind of a similar vibe to this one. It's a little bit more quick cut, a little bit more fun edits. But also, if you don't go on Reddit too often, it can be kind of a fun way to see what's going on without having to view yourself, and you can see myself react to it. So all my shameless plugging aside, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we will see you later. Goodbye.